Lisa reached the Phantom just as Zephyrian soldiers poured into the hangar bay. The ship's hatch opened at her touch and she dove inside as energy beams flashed around her. The Altarian controls were different from human technology, but similar enough that she could understand the basic systems. The engines started with a high whining sound, and Lisa felt the ship lift off the deck. Through the cockpit window, she could see alien fighters scrambling to intercept her. The hangar bay doors were closing to trap her inside, but the Phantom was faster than its builders had expected. Lisa pushed the engines to maximum power and shot through the narrowing gap between the closing doors. Pieces of metal scraped against the ship's hull, but she made it through into open space. Behind her, Kepler Prime was launching every fighter and pursuit ship it had. The Phantom's speed was incredible. Within minutes, Lisa had outrun the slower Zephyrian ships and was preparing to enter hyperspace. But she was not running away from the fight. She was running toward it. Her message had reached Earth, but now she had to do everything possible to help her people prepare for what was coming. Over the next few months, Lisa became something the aliens had never encountered before. Using the Phantom as her base, she began attacking Zephyrian supply lines and military installations throughout the sector. She struck without warning, destroyed her targets, and vanished before enemy reinforcements could arrive. The ship's advanced sensors and cloaking systems made her nearly invisible to Zephyrian detection equipment. Lisa learned to use asteroid fields and nebulae to hide between attacks. She studied alien patrol routes and found their weaknesses. Most importantly, she began contacting the survivors of other conquered races. Her escape from Kepler Prime had inspired hope in beings who had given up long ago. When word spread that a single human had fought her way out of the most secure Zephyrian prison, other resistance groups began to form. The Nexari started sabotaging alien facilities on their water worlds. Surviving Altarians began building secret weapons to use against their captors. Lisa provided coordination and support for these resistance movements. She used the Phantom to smuggle weapons and supplies to rebel groups. She attacked Zephyrian forces to draw them away from areas where uprisings were beginning. Most importantly, she proved that the aliens were not invincible. 6 months after her escape, Lisa received a message from Earth through the emergency channel she had used from Kepler Prime. Her warning had arrived just in time. Human military forces were mobilizing and colonies were being evacuated or fortified. Earth had also made contact with other species in nearby systems who were willing to fight against Zephyrian expansion. But the message also contained terrible news. The Zephyrian invasion fleet had been spotted at the edge of human space. 200 alien warships were moving toward Earth and its colonies. The final battle was about to begin. Lisa knew that her single ship could not stop an entire invasion fleet, but she had learned something important during her months of fighting. The Zephyrians had one critical weakness: their arrogance. They believed they were superior to all other species and never expected real resistance from their victims. She had also discovered that Ambassador Vexthal himself was commanding the invasion fleet from his flagship, a massive battlecruiser called the Destroyer. If Lisa could eliminate him, the Zephyrian command structure might collapse long enough for human and allied forces to win the battle. Lisa intercepted the invasion fleet 3 days from Earth. The Phantom stealth systems allowed her to approach, without being detected until she was very close to the enemy ships. Then she dropped her cloaking and began transmitting on all frequencies. Her message was broadcast to every ship in the Zephyrian fleet. Lisa identified herself as the sole survivor of the UES Defiant and the human who had been terrorizing their forces for months. She told them that she had come to finish what they started at Kepler Prime. The aliens responded by launching hundreds of fighters to destroy her ship, but Lisa was not trying to fight the entire fleet alone. While the fighters chased her through the formation of capital ships, she was actually targeting the destroyer's sensor arrays and communication systems. The Phantom's weapons were designed for precision strikes rather than massive damage. Lisa used them to blind and confuse the flagship while staying ahead of the pursuing fighters. She had learned to fly the alien ship as well as any pilot in the galaxy, and her human reflexes were faster than most alien species could match. When Vexthal's ship was isolated from the rest of the fleet, Lisa made her final attack run. She had loaded the Phantom with explosives taken from destroyed Zephyrian facilities. Her plan was to ram the flagship at maximum speed and detonate everything at once. But as she approached the destroyer, something unexpected happened. Other ships began appearing throughout the battle zone. Human vessels, Nixari submarines converted for spaceflight, and rebuilt Altarian fighters were attacking the Zephyrian fleet from all directions. The Resistance, movements Lisa had supported for months, had coordinated their own attack to coincide with her assault on the flagship. Races that had been enslaved for decades were finally fighting back with everything they had. The battle that was supposed to be Earth's destruction became a galaxy-wide revolt against Zephyrian tyranny. In the confusion of the massive battle, Lisa managed to destroy the destroyer's main weapons and drive systems. Vexthal's flagship was helpless when a squadron of human fighters arrived to finish it off. The alien leader who had killed her crew and tortured her for weeks died when his ship exploded in a ball of fire. With their command ship destroyed and their fleet under attack from multiple directions, the remaining Zephyrian ships tried to retreat. But Lisa had planned for this possibility. Hidden throughout the battle zone were mines and automated weapons platforms built by the resistance groups she had been working with. The aliens found themselves trapped in a killing ground with enemies on all sides and no way to escape. One by one, their ships were destroyed or disabled. By the end of the battle, the mighty Zephyrian invasion fleet had been completely eliminated. The victory at Earth marked the beginning of the end for the Zephyrian collective. Across their territory, enslaved species rose up in rebellion. The aliens who had seemed invincible for centuries suddenly found themselves fighting desperate defensive battles on dozens of worlds. Lisa continued to fight for 2 more years, until the last Zephyrian stronghold fell. When it was over, she had helped liberate an entire sector of the galaxy and given freedom to billions of beings who had lived under alien oppression. She eventually returned to Earth as a hero, but Lisa never forgot the 46 crew members who had died on the Defiant. Their sacrifice had not only saved humanity, but it also sparked the rebellion that freed dozens of other species from slavery. The galaxy was a different place now. Where once the Zephyrians had ruled through fear and violence, new alliances formed based on mutual respect and cooperation. Lisa had kept her promise to her dead friends. Her vengeance had indeed only begun when she escaped from Kepler Prime, and it had ultimately changed the entire balance of power among the stars. Lisa had been a prisoner for 8 weeks when her chance finally came. She had memorized the guard schedules and knew that there was a 15-minute gap every 3 days when the corridor outside her cell was empty. The aliens had become so confident in their security that they no longer bothered to watch her constantly. The opportunity came during a shift change when one of the guards was delayed in another part of the station. Lisa had spent weeks working on loosening one of the bolts that held her chains to the wall. She had used a small piece of metal from her torn uniform to slowly wear away at the bolt whenever the guards were not watching. When the corridor was clear, Lisa pulled hard on the loosened chain and felt the bolt give way. She was free from the wall but still had the heavy metal restraints around her wrists and ankles. Moving as quietly as possible, she approached the cell door and listened for any sounds outside. The door was locked electronically, but Lisa had noticed that the guards sometimes left their access cards in the control panel for a few seconds while they talked to each other. She had been watching and waiting for weeks to see if this careless habit would give her an opportunity. Through the small window in her door, Lisa could see one of the alien guards walking toward her cell, but instead of 2 guards as usual, there was only one. This was the chance she had been waiting for. When the guard reached her door and inserted his access card, Lisa was ready. She had torn strips of cloth from her uniform and braided them into a strong rope. The moment the door opened, Lisa threw the makeshift rope around the guard's neck and pulled him into her cell. The alien was stronger than a human, but Lisa had surprise on her side and weeks of anger to fuel her strength. The guard struggled and tried to call for help, but Lisa held the rope tight until he stopped moving. She took his weapon and access card, then dragged his body into the corner of her cell where it would not be seen immediately by other guards. Lisa now had a weapon and a way to open doors, but she was still deep inside an alien station with thousands of enemies between her and any possible escape. She needed help and she knew where to find it. During her trips to the interrogation room, she had seen areas where other prisoners were held. Moving through the corridors was terrifying. At any moment, another guard might appear and raise an alarm. Lisa stayed in the shadows and avoided the main passages where aliens were most likely to be walking. She used the access card to open doors and slowly made her way toward the prisoner sections. The first group of prisoners she found were Nexari, the water-breathing aliens who had been enslaved decades ago. They were working in a laboratory, forced to develop new weapons for their captors. When Lisa appeared with a guard's weapon, they were too shocked to speak at first. Lisa quickly explained who she was and what she planned to do. She told them that the Zephyrians were planning to attack Earth and that she needed their help to escape and warn her people. The Nexari looked at each other with expressions she could not read. Then their leader spoke in broken English. He said that they had been prisoners for 23 years and had forgotten what hope felt like. But if there was a chance to strike back at the Zephyrians, they would take it. The Nexari had been working on secret projects and knew things about the station that could help Lisa escape. In another section, Lisa found Altarian engineers who had been building ships for their captors. The Altarians looked like tall, thin humans with gray skin and large eyes. Their leader was an old female named Zara, who had been a prisoner longer than anyone else on the station. Zara told Lisa that there was a small fleet of captured ships in the station's hangar bay. Among them was an Altarian courier vessel called the Phantom that had been her own ship before the Zephyrians destroyed her people. If Lisa could reach it, the Phantom was fast enough to outrun any Zephyrian pursuit ship, but getting to the hangar bay would be extremely dangerous. It was on the other side of the station and heavily guarded. Lisa would have to fight her way through dozens of alien soldiers, and once the alarm was raised, every enemy on Kepler Prime would be hunting for her. Zara had a better idea. She told Lisa about a maintenance tunnel that ran under the main corridors and connected to the hangar bay's service areas. The tunnel was not guarded because it was too small for most aliens to use, but a human could crawl through it in about an hour. Lisa also learned something that changed everything about her mission. The Nexari had discovered that the station's communication array could reach Earth if someone knew the right frequencies to use. The Zephyrians had been blocking human transmissions, but there was an emergency channel that they did not know about. This meant Lisa could warn Earth about the invasion, even if she died trying to escape. The most important thing was getting that message sent. If her own people knew what was coming, they might be able to prepare defenses or at least evacuate some of the colonies. The prisoners worked together to create a diversion that would give Lisa time to reach the communication array. The Nexari would cause an explosion in their laboratory that would draw guards away from other areas. The Altarians would sabotage power systems to cause confusion throughout the station. Lisa made her way to the communication center through empty corridors while alarms blared in distant parts of the station. The room was protected by a single guard, who was distracted by the emergency signals coming from the explosion. Lisa approached him from behind and knocked him unconscious with the weapon she had taken, the alien. Communication equipment was different from human technology, but Lisa had studied xenotechnology during her training. She managed to activate the system and find the emergency frequency that the Nexari had told her about. Her message was short but contained everything Earth needed to know. She told them about the Zephyrian collective's true nature and their plan to invade human space within weeks. She gave them details about alien weapons and ship capabilities that she had learned during her imprisonment. Most importantly, she warned them that this was not just a military attack but an attempt at complete genocide. As soon as the message was sent, Lisa heard boots running in the corridor outside. The aliens had discovered her location and were coming in force. She had perhaps 5 minutes before they broke down the door and captured or killed her. Lisa ran through the corridors toward the maintenance tunnel that Zara had described. Behind her, she could hear alien voices shouting orders and the sound of weapons being prepared. Every light on the station was now flashing red and loud alarms were echoing from every speaker. She found the tunnel entrance just as the first alien soldiers appeared at the end of the corridor. Energy beams flashed past her head as she dove into the narrow space and began crawling as fast as she could toward the hangar bay. The tunnel was hot and filled with pipes that burned her skin, but Lisa forced herself to keep moving. She could hear the aliens trying to follow her, but they were too large to fit in the small space. They would have to find another route to the hangar bay, and Lisa hoped she would get there first. When she finally emerged from the tunnel, Lisa found herself in a huge room filled with ships from many different alien races. The Phantom was exactly where Zara had said it would be, a sleek silver vessel that looked fast and dangerous. Lisa ran toward the ship as alarms continued to echo throughout the station. She had perhaps 2 minutes before the Zephyrian forces reached the hangar bay. Everything now depended on whether she could start an alien ship and escape before they stopped her. The meeting room was large and filled with comfortable chairs arranged in a circle. Lisa sat across from Ambassador Vexthul, while 5 other alien leaders took their places around the table. Each one represented a different race from the Zephyrian collective. There was a blue-skinned being with 4 arms, a creature that looked like a walking tree, and others that Lisa found hard to describe. For the first hour, everything went well. Vexthul asked questions about human history and technology. Lisa answered carefully, sharing information that Earth's leaders had approved for this meeting. She talked about human art, music, and science while being careful not to reveal military secrets. The aliens seemed very interested in human spaceships and how they were built. They wanted to know about human weapons and defense systems. Lisa thought this was normal curiosity, and gave general answers without going into details that could be dangerous. Dr. Helen Brooks was taking notes and asking her own questions about alien cultures. She was fascinated by how different species had developed their own ways of thinking and living. The aliens answered her questions freely and seemed to enjoy talking about their worlds. Jake Morrison sat quietly and watched everything. He was trained to notice small details that others might miss. After an hour, he started to feel worried. The aliens were asking very specific questions about human military strength and the locations of Earth's colonies. Their questions seemed more like intelligence gathering than friendly curiosity. Jake tried to catch Lisa's attention, but she was focused on answering Vexthul's questions. The alien leader was asking about Earth's population and how many ships humans had built. He wanted to know which human colonies were the most important and how they were defended. Lisa began to feel uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. These were not the kind of questions she expected from potential trading partners. She tried to change the subject to more peaceful topics like art and culture, but the aliens kept returning to military matters. That was when the lights in the room began to flicker. A low alarm sound started echoing through the station. Vexthul stood up quickly and his large black eyes seemed to glow with excitement rather than concern. The other aliens also rose from their chairs, and Lisa noticed that they were all smiling in ways that looked hungry and cruel. Jake jumped up and reached for his weapon, but found that his gun was no longer in its holder. Someone had taken it while they were distracted by the meeting. Lisa realized that her weapon was also missing. They had been disarmed without noticing. Vexthul's friendly voice changed completely. Now it sounded cold and threatening. He told Lisa that there would be no trade agreement and no alliance. The Zephyrian collective had never intended to make friends with humanity. This entire meeting had been a trap, designed to capture Earth's best ship and most experienced crew. The alien leader explained that the Zephyrians viewed humans as a dangerous threat that needed to be eliminated before they became too powerful. Humanity had developed faster than light travel only 50 years ago, but had already shown they were aggressive and good at fighting. The Zephyrians had decided it was better to destroy human civilization now while it was still weak. Lisa felt sick as she realized how badly she had been fooled. All the friendly words and welcoming gestures had been lies. The aliens had studied humans carefully and knew exactly what to say to gain their trust. Earth's leaders had walked straight into this trap because they wanted so badly to find allies among the stars. The alarm sounds grew louder and Jake could hear weapon fire coming from the direction of the docking bays. He grabbed Lisa's arm and told her they needed to get back to their ship immediately. The other humans in the room also realized they were in terrible danger, but it was too late. Alien soldiers poured into the meeting room carrying energy weapons that glowed with deadly light. These were not the same friendly aliens from the tour. These soldiers looked like armored insects with razor-sharp claws and teeth. Their eyes showed no mercy or emotion. Lisa and her team tried to run, but the aliens were faster. Energy beams filled the air, and Lisa heard Danny Walsh scream as he was hit in the back. "Karen." Belle made it almost to the door before a soldier struck her down with claws that cut through her uniform like paper. Jake tackled one of the aliens and tried to take its weapon, but 3 more soldiers surrounded him. Lisa watched in horror as they fired their weapons at close range. Jake's body convulsed as electrical energy coursed through him, and then he fell to the floor and did not move again. Helen Brooks was trying to hide behind an overturned table when the soldiers found her. Lisa heard her friend scream for help, but there was nothing she could do. The soldiers showed no interest in taking prisoners from the diplomatic team. Meanwhile, the battle was spreading throughout the station and back to the Defiant. Lisa could hear explosions and the sound of human weapons firing. Paul Carter's voice came through her radio communicator, telling her that the ship was under attack from hidden weapons. Built into the station itself, Amy. Rodriguez reported that the engine room was taking heavy damage. The aliens had targeted their power systems first to prevent the Defiant from escaping. She said she was trying to keep the engines running, but alien soldiers had boarded the ship through holes blown in the hull. Lisa managed to reach her radio and told Paul to activate the ship's self-destruct system. If they were going to die, at least they could take some of the aliens with them and prevent the Zephyrians from studying human technology. But Paul's voice came back sounding defeated. He said the aliens had somehow disabled the self-destruct system before the attack began. The sounds of battle from the Defiant grew quieter and quieter as more of her crew were killed. Lisa heard Amy's voice one last time reporting that the engine room was being overrun. Then there was only silence from her ship. Vexthal walked over to where Lisa was kneeling beside Jake's body. The alien leader told her that she was the only human who would be kept alive. The Zephyrians needed information about Earth's defenses and human military capabilities. They planned to invade Earth within 6 months and wanted to be prepared for any surprises. Lisa looked up at the alien with hatred burning in her eyes. 46 of her crew members were dead. Her friends had been murdered while she watched helplessly. The ship that had been her home for 5 years was now a floating tomb, filled with the bodies of people she had cared about. But Vexthal was not finished explaining his plans. He told Lisa that humanity's fate had been decided long ago. The Zephyrian Collective had destroyed dozens of other species using the same methods. They would offer friendship and trade until their victims became careless, then strike without warning to eliminate any potential rivals. Lisa realized that this was not just about her crew or even about Earth. These aliens were systematic, destroyers who had committed genocide many times before. They were the real threat to peace in this part of the galaxy, not the young human race trying to find its place among the stars. Lisa Hayes stood on the bridge of her ship and watched the stars move past the windows. She was the commander of the UES Defiant, a big human warship with 47 crew members on board. They had been flying through space for 3 weeks to reach this place called Kepler Prime. It was a trading station where aliens from different worlds came to buy and sell things. Lisa felt excited and nervous at the same time. This was the most important mission of her life. Earth had sent her to make the first real trade deal with a group of alien races called the Zephyrian Collective. These aliens controlled a huge part of this area of space and had power over many worlds. If humans could become friends with them, it would mean safety and new chances for everyone back on Earth. Jake Morrison walked up to Lisa and gave her a report. He was her second in command and had been her friend for many years. Jake had short brown hair and always smiled when things got tough. He told Lisa that all the ship systems were working fine and they would reach the station in 2 hours. Amy Rodriguez was down in the engine room making sure everything ran smoothly. She was the best engineer Lisa had ever worked with. Amy could fix anything that broke and always found ways to make their ship faster and stronger. Lisa trusted her completely. Paul Carter was checking the security systems and making sure all the weapons were ready. He was a big man with scars on his face from old battles. Paul never trusted anyone quickly and always expected trouble. He had told Lisa many times that this meeting felt wrong to him, but Lisa hoped he was just being too careful. Dr. Helen Brooks was in her lab getting ready to study the alien cultures they would meet. She loved learning about new life forms and different ways of thinking. Helen had read everything she could find about the Zephyrian races and was more excited than anyone else about this trip. The Defiant was one of Earth's newest ships. It had strong shields, fast engines, and powerful weapons. But Lisa had ordered the crew to keep the weapons powered down and the shields at minimum strength. She wanted to show the aliens that humans came in peace and wanted to be friends. As they got closer to Kepler Prime, Lisa could see it through the front window. The station was huge, bigger than any human city. It looked like a giant wheel spinning slowly in space with hundreds of ships flying around it. Lights flashed in many colors that Lisa had never seen before. This was where aliens from across the galaxy came to trade goods and information. A voice came through the radio speaking in perfect English. It belonged to Ambassador Vexthal of the Kithera race. The Cathara looked like giant insects with hard shells covering their bodies. Vexthul was the leader of the Zephyrian collective and the most powerful alien in this part of space. Vexthul's voice sounded friendly and welcoming. He told Lisa that her ship could dock at Bay 17 and that he was looking forward to meeting humans for the first time. He said the Zephyrians had heard many good things about human courage and intelligence. Lisa smiled as she listened to the alien leader. Everything was going according to plan. She had spent 2 years preparing for this moment, learning about alien customs and practicing how to speak with different types of beings. The people of Earth were counting on her to make this deal work. Jake took control of the ship and guided it slowly into the docking bay. The Defiant fit perfectly between 2 other alien ships that Lisa did not recognize. She could see creatures moving around outside through the windows, but they were too far away to see clearly. Amy called from the engine room to say that all systems were stable and the ship was safely connected to the station's power supply. Paul reported that station security seemed normal, and he could see armed guards but nothing that looked dangerous. Lisa gathered her diplomatic team, which included Jake, Helen, and 2 other officers named Danny Walsh and Karen Bell. They would go to the meeting while Paul and Amy stayed on the ship with the rest of the crew. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and Lisa stepped onto the alien station for the first time. The air smelled different, like flowers mixed with metal. The gravity felt a little lighter than on Earth. Strange music played softly from speakers in the walls. Ambassador Vexthul was waiting for them in the docking bay. He was even taller than Lisa had expected, standing almost 8 feet high. His body looked like a huge praying mantis with green and gold-colored shell. His eyes were large and black, and they seemed to look right through her. But when Vexthul spoke, his voice was warm and friendly. He welcomed Lisa and her team to Kepler Prime, and said he was honored to meet the representatives of humanity. He told them that the Zephyrian collective was very interested in learning about human technology and culture. Lisa felt relief flow through her body. The alien leader seemed genuine and interested in making a real alliance. She introduced her team and accepted Vexthul's invitation to tour the station before their formal meeting began. As they walked through the corridors of Kepler Prime, Lisa saw amazing things. There were aliens of all shapes and sizes trading goods from across the galaxy. Some looked like walking trees, others were covered in fur or scales, and some seemed to be made of living rock. The diversity was incredible. Vexthul explained that the Zephyrian collective included 6 different alien races who had joined together for mutual protection and profit. He said they controlled over 200 worlds and had been peaceful for more than 1,000 years. Lisa began to relax as the tour continued. This was exactly what Earth needed, a chance to join a stable alliance of peaceful species. She started to believe that this mission would succeed, and that humans would finally have their place among the stars. But she did not notice the small changes happening around her. The alien guards were moving into new positions. Hidden cameras were watching her every move, and in a control room deep inside the station, other aliens were preparing weapons that had been built specially to destroy human ships. Lisa woke up in a small metal room with no windows. Her head hurt badly and her body was covered with cuts and burns from the battle. She tried to move but found that her hands and feet were chained to the wall. The air in the cell was hot and smelled like chemicals that made her throat burn. She had no idea how long she had been unconscious. It could have been hours or days. There was no way to tell time in this place where the lights never changed. Lisa's uniform was torn and dirty with blood from wounds she did not remember getting. The door to her cell opened with a loud grinding sound. 2 alien guards came in carrying energy weapons pointed at her chest. Behind them walked Ambassador Vexthul, but he no longer pretended to be friendly. His large black eyes showed only cold hatred as he looked at the last surviving human. Vexthul told Lisa that she was now a prisoner of the Zephyrian collective. Her ship had been completely destroyed and every member of her crew was dead. The aliens had taken everything, useful from the Defiant before blowing it into pieces, that now drifted through space around Kepler Prime. The alien leader said that Lisa would be kept alive only as long as she provided information about Earth's military capabilities. He wanted to know about human weapons, shield technology, and the locations of every human colony and military base. If she refused to cooperate, the Zephyrians had many ways to make her change her mind. Lisa said nothing. She had been trained for this situation during her years in Earth's military. The first rule was to never give information to the enemy, no matter what they threatened to do. She would die before she helped these monsters plan their attack on her homeworld. Vexthal seemed to expect this response. He told the guards to begin the first interrogation session. They dragged Lisa from her cell through corridors filled with alien symbols and writing she could not read. The station was much larger than she had realized during her brief tour. It went on for kilometers in every direction with thousands of aliens working at various tasks. They brought her to a room filled with strange machines that hummed with electrical energy. Lisa was strapped to a metal chair that was connected to devices she did not recognize. Vexthal explained that these were tools designed to extract information from the minds of captured enemies. The Zephyrians had perfected these methods over centuries of conquest. For hours they used machines that sent pain through every nerve in Lisa's body. They showed her recordings of her crew members being killed in the battle, playing Jake Morrison's death over and over again to try to break her spirit. They threatened to send the same fate to everyone on Earth if she did not cooperate. But Lisa had learned to endure pain and resist psychological torture. She focused her mind on memories of Earth and the people she was protecting. Every time the aliens hurt her, she reminded herself that staying silent might save billions of human lives. Days passed in the same pattern. The aliens would drag Lisa from her cell, torture her for hours, then return her to the small metal room to recover. They tried different methods each time, sometimes using physical pain and sometimes trying to confuse her mind with drugs and strange lights. During the sessions, Lisa learned more about her captors than they learned about her. The Zephyrian Collective was not the peaceful alliance they pretended to be. They were conquerors who had destroyed entire civilizations across the galaxy. Their method was always the same: offer friendship to gain trust, then strike when their victims were weakest. Vexthal enjoyed telling Lisa about the other species they had eliminated. The Altarians had been master engineers who built the fastest ships in the galaxy. The Zephyrians had invited them to a technology-sharing conference, then poisoned their entire leadership in a single day. Within a year, the Altarian race was extinct. The Nexari had been peaceful water beings who controlled rich ocean worlds. The Zephyrians had promised to protect them from space pirates, then used that protection as an excuse to build military bases on Nexari planets. When the bases were complete, they simply took over and enslaved the entire population. The pattern was always the same. The Zephyrians would study a species for years, learning their strengths and weaknesses. Then they would approach with offers of alliance or trade. Once they gained access to their target's territory and military secrets, they would strike with overwhelming force designed to prevent any chance of resistance. Lisa realized that humanity had been selected for destruction months or even years ago. The invitation to Kepler Prime had been planned carefully to capture Earth's most advanced ship and experienced crew. By studying the Defiance technology and interrogating its crew, the Zephyrians would know exactly how to defeat Earth's defenses. But Lisa was not giving them the information they wanted. After 2 weeks of torture, she had revealed nothing useful about human military capabilities. The aliens were growing frustrated with their failure to break her resistance. Vexthal told Lisa that they had decided to change their approach. Instead of torturing her for information, they would simply proceed with their invasion of Earth using what they had already learned from capturing the Defiant. They had studied human technology closely and believed they understood its weaknesses. The alien leader enjoyed describing the invasion plan in detail. A fleet of 200 Zephyrian warships would attack Earth and its colonies simultaneously. They would target population centers first to maximize casualties and prevent organized resistance. Any humans who survived the initial attack would be enslaved like the Nexari and forced to work in alien factories. Lisa listened to these plans with growing horror. She realized that Earth had no idea this attack was coming. Her warning message had never been sent because the battle had happened too quickly. Billions of innocent people would die simply because they had tried to make friends with the wrong aliens. But as the days passed, Lisa began to notice things about the station that her captors had not intended her to see. During her daily trips to the interrogation room, she observed guard routines and security measures. She memorized the layout of corridors and noted which areas seemed less heavily protected, The aliens had grown confident in their ability to control one injured human prisoner. They had reduced her guard detail and become careless about security procedures. Lisa began to realize that escape might be possible if she could find the right opportunity. She also learned that Kepler Prime held more than just Zephyrian ships and personnel. The station served as a prison for survivors from other conquered species. There were Altarian engineers, Nexari scientists, and members of other races the Zephyrians had enslaved over the centuries. Some of these prisoners had been held for decades, forced to work on projects that helped the Zephyrians build better weapons and ships. They had given up hope of freedom long ago, but Lisa wondered if they might be willing to help if someone gave them a chance to strike back at their captors. The key was finding a way to communicate with the other prisoners and coordinate some kind of resistance effort. Lisa knew that one human could not escape from a station full of hostile aliens, but a group of desperate prisoners working together might have a chance. She began to plan carefully, studying every detail of her captors' routines and looking for weaknesses in their security. The Zephyrians had made one crucial mistake in keeping her alive, and Lisa intended to make them pay for that error with everything she had left.